What's going on, everybody? Russell Simon here for Simon Says on the Mark, alongside Mark Donatelli. Mark is here. He's in the building.
I am back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, ready to preview the Giants and Niners game, which is going to kick off in a few minutes. And Mark, two teams with tons of momentum right now. The Giants coming in after knocking off I guess they still are the Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packers at 15-1. And the Giants just went in there and just killed them. And then the Niners playing at home in their first postseason game in a very long time against Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints, and Alex Smith, yes, Alex Smith, leads them back for 2 touchdowns late to win the game. Should be a good one, kicking off in a couple minutes.
Exactly, and if you look at the 4 teams left, and you look at this year and how so many offenses took off, and half the league's quarterbacks are throwing for 4,000 yards. Obviously, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah,
but just the way that these offenses, were, especially in the first few weeks of the year, we're just taking off, and there's no defense being played. But now you look, and you have 3 of the 4 teams. I'm going to exclude the Patriots' defense.
Of course.
I think their offense
not
obviously
as good.
Right. But you look at 3 of the 4 teams: the Niners, the Giants, the Ravens. These are 3 of the best defenses in the league. So I think the statement that defense wins championships is still very valid.
Yes.
And I think especially the Giants-San Francisco game today is going to be a very good defensive battle.
You have 2 very good defenses, of course. Up front, the Giants' defensive line, excellent, with Tuck, Canty, Pierre-Paul, even Umanure playing a big role in the domination in Green Bay last week. They really were able to get pressure, I thought, on Rodgers, forced him to make bad throws. And when the Packers didn't execute, they didn't execute. They dropped a ton of passes, a lot of interceptions, sloppy play. It's hard to win any game, and the Niners are definitely going to have to limit turnovers here today if they want to be successful at home with home field advantage still.
Oh, exactly, and the same goes for Eli Manning and the Giants, too, and you look at the San Francisco defense. You were talking about defensive line depth. I think the 49ers are up there, too. Justin Smith has had one of the best defensive, one of the best. He's been the best defensive end in the league, arguably, this year.
You could say that.
Yeah, and obviously, with the linebacking core of Aldon Smith, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman.
Bowman's great, too.
They're going to stop the run. The Giants don't really have a run. So it's all going to come down to Eli Manning.
And Eli Manning, obviously, I think, even before yesterday, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But he really cemented himself as a guy who I think is really here to stay and going to be a great quarterback in this league for some time. And he can really cement his legacy even if they go on and make it to the Super Bowl here today. And for the Niners, obviously one of the wild cards is Alex Smith. Obviously against New Orleans, he was 24 for 42, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns in the 36-32, and he also ran for a long touchdown on a great play. And there are a lot of things that are going to be consistent in this game. Both teams are going to show up defensively. Eli Manning is going to have a good game. But even if the Giants can go down the field and score some points, if Alex Smith can bring the Niners right back like he did last week, the Niners could definitely have success in this game here today.
Oh, right. And I think another interesting little tidbit about this game, I guess.
All right.
Right. You've seen the play of tight ends, especially this year, and especially in this playoffs, has been
Vernon Davis.
Right. It's been an integral part of the way offense has been, moving up and down the field, the regular season and the postseason. Gronkowski and Hernandez in New England, and Vernon Davis in San Francisco. So it might come down to how these teams are game planning. Obviously,
to stop the tight end.
Right. I think a lot of offensive coordinators in this league are beginning to realize that tight ends, being these 6'4", 200, 6'4" plus. You look at Gronkowski, he's 6'6".
Yep.
270 pound. Basically these mix of lineman size, but with wide receiver speed. It's obviously the future of the NFL. The next 5 years, tight ends are going to be playing a very big role in offenses. So the Giants are going to have to find a way to limit Vernon Davis, and also on their offensive side of the ball, can they get Bear Pasco going? Can they get Ballard going? That might be somewhat of an interesting storyline.
And for the Giants defensively, they generate pressure. And they cover the wide receivers with their pass rush, hitting the quarterback constantly. But how do you defend the tight end if you're generating a ton of pressure, even if the front four and you're dropping guys in coverage, Vernon Davis is still a pretty big target. So I gotta think it comes down to some of the linebackers here for the Giants, obviously Kiwanuka and even Michael Boley, to have a big part of this game in stopping Vernon Davis over the middle, because he's really the outlet and the safety valve for Alex Smith. Even if the Giants can generate pressure, they just dump it off to him, and those linebackers are going to have to play a big role here today.
Right. I mean, and that's the best thing about having a big, physical, dominant tight end, is that there's so many things you could do with them. They're so hard for safeties and inside linebackers to try to contain, because you get a speedy defensive back, but they don't have the size to press the guy. Or if you get a big, thick linebacker, they might not have the speed to catch up with Vernon Davis or Gronkowski. So it comes down to how are the Ravens? I guess I think they kind of lack depth at tight end. How are the Giants? How can they incorporate tight ends? Are they going to be able to do what the Giants and the Patriots are definitely going to do to them?
Of course. And looking at this game, Mark, obviously it's a good one, tough one to predict. Who do you got in this one?
I am going to take the Giants in a low scoring.
I was going to take the Giants, but I think I'm gonna go differently now.
Well, I mean,
let's hear it.
My reasoning here is, and this is going to come down to my matchup of the day, and it's not going to be the Giant D-line for once.
We always say
the
done
Giant
7 Giant games
right.
this year, and it's always been the D-line.
Right, and I think my matchup of the day, or my key player of the game, I'll just incorporate that.
Okay.
I think Eli Manning and the continuation of his smart football that he's had all year. If anybody that's watched the Giants this year, the games that they've won, and obviously they've won a lot, they're in the NFC Championship game, has been Eli Manning being able to cut down on his mistakes.
Turnovers.
If you look at how he played last year, he led the league in interceptions, making a ton of bad reads.
Niners do force a lot of turnovers.
Right, and the 49ers force a lot of turnovers. That's why his smart play is gonna be very important today. But I think how can you differentiate Eli Manning's play this year when everyone else is throwing for 4,000 yards in a season? His stats aren't any better than Brady's or even Cam Newton's. But what put him into the NFC Championship game is his ability to just play smart football. Put the game in the hands of his defense and score the necessary points just by making the smart reads.
I dare to be different. I'm going with San Francisco, and here's why. I think home field advantage, I don't really think that matters. I don't buy into that. But I think the defenses are very similar. But I like Vernon Davis and the ground and pound, if you will, style of this Niners offense. I think the Giants have had a lot of success against teams that really like to throw the ball. And obviously Alex Smith is not going to try and do that as much. I mean, he can go down the field. But if we're talking first quarter, second quarter, they're going to try to establish the ground game. And I think it'll be interesting, and it'll be a good test for this Giants team. And I like Frank Gore, I like Vernon Davis, and I think if the Niners can be very physical with them, which is really the kind of style they can play, I think they're going to win this game. I think it's going to be close. It should be a good one. I'm going to go Niners 21, Giants 17. Mark, what do you think?
Well, I certainly like what the Harbaugh regime has done in San Francisco, but when it comes down to two really good defenses, it's going to be what Alex Smith does versus what Eli Manning does. And in that matchup, I like Manning. I'm going to take Giants 17, 49ers 13.
There you have it. We'll see you next week. Maybe I'll get to gloat, or maybe Mark will get the advantage over me. I'm Russell Simon.
And I'm Mark Donatelli.
Guys, back to you.